Well, hey guys, we are joined today by Skye Michiels. And Skye, we've known from a distance for a while, although we've never had the opportunity to meet. Skye is the former head of coaching at Compass, and he is the current founder and CEO of With Heart Coaching. Skye, thanks for being with us today.
I'm thrilled to be with you guys today.
Well, we'll jump in the same way we jump in with everybody else. And you've been in the real estate industry a long time. Looking back, kind of, we went through your bio and looking at like the turning points in your life. You've been doing this a while. I'm curious if you would be willing to share with us in the audience just a crazy story from your real estate career. Does anything come to mind?
I got two that popped to my mind. I'll give you the first one, which is just such a crazy scenario that people nowadays, 2008, when everything was collapsing. I'll give you this one quickly. I remember sitting at a closing table and the title company walking in saying, "So we have some bad news. The bank is no longer in business. So we can't close." Every single agent, person, title clerk in the room is like, "What?" And this is when Lehman is crashing. So it actually wasn't a crazy deal because, we just were, everyone was reasonable. So my craziest deal was a situation where I had a client I've been working with for a year. And these are these clients that were always looking for the deal. They found this deal. It was a short sale, a divorce, and they were also in the foreclosure proceedings. So we had all three of these. In addition, they just had a baby. So we have the thing under contract. We get it through all of the hurdles. And then we have a rate lock as well that's going to expire. And this is like the rates were really fluctuating. So they had this amazing interest rate. It's a Friday night. It's a rainstorm. And at the end of the closing, the bank was coming with a request. For some reason, there was a divorce paper, right? Or an agreement from the wife and the husband, who, by the way, did not talk, right? Like it was one of those situations where she had to like sign off on something. Well,
it's probably pulling teeth to get any cooperation whatsoever.
It's Friday at 4:30. So, and we've been dealing with this like all day, right? And we got it all done except for this one document. It needs, of course, it's not an e-signature. It's a wet signature with a notary. So I always remember being in that moment, and all day, myself, the mortgage person, the other agent, the title person, we've been like, Houdini, like, "Oh, you need this? Boom, you got it. Oh, you need this? Oh, we got it." And we're like high-fiving. And then at the last minute we get, from the bank, we need this one document just authorizing, funds, whatever it was. I don't even remember at this stage. And I remember my mortgage, we're like, how are we going to do this by 5:00? So my mortgage guy, who's one of my best friends, gets on his phone. He's like, "All right, the wife lives in it's like 25 minutes away."
Oh my God.
He calls like a mobile notary he knew, had the mobile notary. He drove. This is like my mortgage guy, right? He drove up to the wife's residence, got the thing signed. Like 2 minutes down the road, there was like a Staples or whatever. He got all the documents in by 5:00. We got the loan funded. And I remember, we're all like breath of fresh air, relief. And I remember we all went out afterwards, myself, the mortgage guy, and the title clerk. My mortgage guy's, "What are you guys doing right now?" I'm like, "I'm fried." He's like, "Oh my God, we're going to get drinks and dinner."
Yes.
We had a really good time. I'll put it like that.
Needless to say, you had a really good time that night. Yeah.
But it was a true testament to teamwork and the importance of teamwork inside of real estate, right? Because if I didn't have that mortgage person, if it wasn't my title company, that deal would never have closed and it never would have happened. And again, to this day now, the client, I'm good friends with him. We play golf. Our kids are on soccer together. It's one of those things you think back to that moment and then everything that transpired since. But the importance of having that team as a realtor, I called it my team beyond my team, right? I had my team that I ran, but then beyond my team, I have all these other people that make the business go. And as a realtor, it's one of your value adds to your clients.
I mean, over the years, especially, it's like with every passing year, I find this to be true more and more. It's like the value that I provide isn't that I know everything. It's that I know the people who know the thing. It's like
Right.
I know who to call to get the thing done when the thing needs to get done.
That's it.
And if you can have those people, I mean, it's like exponential how much
That's it.
better you are at your job. That's so
I
good.
know. I know.
Well, let's rewind the clock. I wanna go back in time here a little bit. There's a couple things we kind of looking through your bio. There's a couple things I want to hit on, but like, talk to me about Skye Michiels growing up. Like, what formed you? Like, what kind of got you here to this place that you are,
Yeah.
and how did you end up in real estate? Was that always the plan?
Yes. Well, the real estate was definitely not the plan. I'll put it like that. Like most of us, probably.
Totally.
Very few
Yeah.
people grow
Very
up.
few people. Yeah.
now, now with HGTV, I think there's a little bit more because they've made it like a little cooler. But I can definitely guarantee when I was growing up, there was no one saying, "I want to be a real estate agent."
Totally.
So I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I was raised by a single mom. I have two amazing sisters, extremely tight family, but we grew up pretty poor. And the thing that sort of shaped me from a very early age was this mindset of always sort of being scrappy and always believing that everything is going to work out. And I remember at the age of 12, the first day I could actually work, I actually got a paper route. And if a paper route is basically you are an entrepreneur because you
Oh
are a
yeah.
1099, they can't, you can't work at the age of 12, but you can run your own business, ironically. So basically as a paper boy, they sell you the papers and then you got to collect the money. So at the age of 12, I'm like, delivering papers, collecting payments, paying for this. So it was actually, ironically, a really great business education such situation for me of really early on in my life, like actually having to run a business at the age of 12. Um,
Uh,
as I was growing up, though, I was heavily influenced by some of my coaches and teachers. I was an athlete, and so sports influenced me in a really, really heavy way. And I think the thing that I loved about sports, especially growing up poor, is that it was a level playing field, right? When you step on a field, I played football and I was also on the crew team. When I got in a boat or I stepped on a football field, it didn't matter what anyone had. All that mattered was what you brought to that competition. And so between running a paper route, running a business, and then being heavily influenced by coaches and teachers, and then being inside that athletic community, I grew up sort of wanting to become a teacher because of the fact that I felt like the way I was influenced as a young child, I wanted to create that same influence in other people. So I was lucky enough, to graduate. I went to Syracuse University. I was a Division I athlete on the crew team there. And, I got my teaching degree. I got my master's degree. I knew I was going to be a teacher, and so I start teaching in Haverford High School down Havertown in Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. And I'm like, yes, I made it.
Now, are
I
you
got a
teaching and coaching
master's.
too? Or are you just teaching?
I was starting to get into a little bit of coaching, right?
Okay.
So my first coaching position was ninth grade women's softball, which I knew nothing about, but it was an open position. So I was like, I'll do it,
I could do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
How hard can it be?
So the only downside of teaching very early on, you get into it and you're like, I won't curse, but like, I'm like, damn, I'm still poor. I, I,
How
I
to
went to
resolve this part of things? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like, and again, over time as a teacher, you elevate and eventually it gets to be a really secure, stable job. But the frustration I had was, oh my God, like I'm working so hard and I'm still poor. And as an athlete, you like to push yourself. And
Totally.
I knew every year, okay, you had the step schedule, so to speak, right? So I was like, okay, I could not work or work really hard and it won't matter. And that went against who I was as an athlete and a person. So I stumbled into real estate in 2002. I just, one of my coworkers at the high school was like, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would get my real estate license. I'd sell real estate part-time and I would teach full-time. You have the stability of teaching. You sell 4 to 5 houses a year, make a little extra commission. And this is back in 2001, 2002, which is a much different market than it is
Totally.
now. So I researched how to get a license and, the athlete I am, I'm like, I'm not going to do something that's going to take me 6 months. Oh, there's a 2 weekend option. I'm going to do that. So I knocked out my license
Full
over the
sprint.
course. Yeah. Just like Friday night, it was like 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock on Friday, and then like 9 to 9 on Saturday and 9 to 6 on Sunday, 2 weekends in a row. And then that was for two, and then you had to do that again for the 2 courses. And I banged it out. So I became a realtor in 2002, and I was like, cool. So I became a realtor accidentally, just sort of stumbled into it. And then very quickly, though, the athletic background in me kicked in, and the teacher in me kicked in. So when you combine that teacher who is like that nurturing, caring person, but also someone who can explain things to people really well, right? As the best teachers weren't the ones that stood up in a lecture and explained. The best teachers are ones that got you to understand the concept or understand you as a person or whatever it might be. So I combined that with this like athletic piece of me, but I was, still teaching full time. So,
Competitive and caring.
Exactly. You combine those, the powerful combination. And so I just started selling real estate, thinking in my mind I was just going to do 3 to 4 sales a year. But over time, it actually grew into this huge business. And I remember one of my aha moments, it was 2 years into my career, and I made my teaching salary in a month. It was one of those months where all the closings just piled up. Yep. And at the end of the month, I was like, what am I doing? Like I'm working part-time. I just made how much money I'm going to make in a year. And it was just this aha moment of like, I got to make a decision. I'm killing myself, by the way, too.
That is awesome. So I want to, let's put a pin in this, because I want to talk about your real estate career, but I want to backtrack a little bit, because you said a couple things that I want to double click on, partly because we have a lot of similarities in my story with yours.
Yeah.
I played sports, it's baseball for me. But first, this is a parent thing. This is where my head goes when you're talking about a paper route. And were you like paper route on a bicycle throwing out papers? Is that how you were doing it?
Hey, unfortunately, that's a myth. Anyone that
I was gonna say,
has ever run a paper route, like these things are. I'm a 12-year-old. I'm 12. I'm light. Like I'm not.
I was gonna say that's some
heavy.
No wonder you did crew. That's what I was thinking. I was like, this dude.
Yeah. No, you're walking that thing. You're walking that. Like anyone that does it on a bike, that's just like a movie thing. That's not what people really.
Well, in the movies, every time they throw it on a bike, they like fall. That's like the thing in the movie.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I think there's like I think as a parent, I'm thinking like, so my oldest is 8 years old.
Yeah.
Everybody now is like, you walk places? No. You've got like the little electric scooter. So like it's just a different time as a parent. That's gritty to have to walk and do your paper route.
It is.
And how early are you waking up? Because you're an early riser now.
That's the thing. I mean, I think back, the irony is my whole life I've been waking up early because you had to do it before school. And I can't remember exactly when we started, but I probably was waking up as a 12-year-old at like 5:30 probably to get it done.
Incredible.
So it was, and again, it's just one of those things that I found joy in it in some ways, like, seeing the sunrise and, again, it's like one of those lessons of learning the beauty of a morning.
Yeah.
It was a really cool thing to be able to learn that early on in my life.
That's awesome. So now I want to talk about crew, because I know this much about crew. What I know about rowing and crew, I know from CrossFit, a Concept 2 rower, which will take away your soul, and from the book, The Boys in the Boat. Okay, so that's what I know about crew. Tell us what we need to know about crew.
Yeah.
That and how that impacted you, because that is a tough sport.
Yeah.
Like, what do we need to know about crew?
It's one of the only sports that you actually face backwards in the direction you're moving. So besides your coxswain, who is the guy that sort of steers the boat, you basically you don't see where you're going. So it's an ironic thing. It's like one of the few sports that you actually face backwards in the direction you're going. The other unique thing about crew, the way I describe it is imagine sprinting a mile, curling and pressing 20-pound dumbbells, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of the few sports that your entire body is being used and consumed. And it's basically an anaerobic competition where you basically put your body the people that are really good are the ones that can endure the most pain.
Yeah.
It's really
Because you don't have enough oxygen.
that's it. Your body doesn't have the oxygen. You know, from CrossFit, you probably do 500 meters and you're like, wow, that was hard.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. A 2,000-meter row, if that's like one of the things, it's like 2,000-meter row, which takes me like between 7 and 8 minutes, I think, is like the worst thing in the entire world. It's
the
awful.
worst. It's torture.
Yeah.
So, and again, imagine that's on an erg that's not moving, it's stationary on the platform. Now imagine you combine wind, and the boat, by the way, is 60 feet long and it's about, little, maybe 14 inches wide. And then you have, 10, 12-foot oars. So, and you got 8 guys that are, 220, 230, 6'4" to 6, moving in this boat. This thing.
And by the way, you have to synchronize.
So, exactly. So it is one of the most beautiful and barbaric sports all at the same time. I'll put it like that. Because of the fact that when you watch it, it looks effortless. When you're actually, we call it being in swing, right? When you're in swing,
really smooth.
You're watching it. You're like, man, those guys aren't even working. And inside the boat, you're dying. You're dying. And I think the other best part about crew is there's a similarity to like the military where you didn't do it for the love of killing your body. You did it because you loved your brothers in the front and back of you. And to this day, like, if my phone rang right now at this moment and it's one of my teammates, my brothers, I'll drop anything that I have going on to go help them. They are my family. And we form this bond, and you form it through hardship, right? So it's one of the lessons I learned really early on is the power of team and the power of connections. And I think crew is one of those sports, like there is no greater team sport than crew, because if one guy is off, the whole thing is off, right?
Yeah.
Baseball, you could have a weak link in baseball and still win a championship, right?
Totally.
In football, same thing. I mean, there's, every team sport, you need to operate as a team for sure to excel. But crew is one of those sports where, and again, you're talking about hundredths of a second between winning, losing, going to the championship race versus not, etc. So it's just an incredible, beautiful, brutal sport. And for anyone that has ever, not done it, just hop on a rowing machine and put 2,000 meters on the erg and try to just see what it feels like,
Yeah.
And it'll give you a taste of it, but you don't really get the taste of it. There's a beautiful thing when you are on water that's as smooth as glass and the sun rises and you're with your best friends in the world.
Yep.
And just competing every single day. So
talk to me about that discipline though, to sync up like that. I mean, you can't skip a beat. You truly have to be in sync, unified. Like, what does that discipline and practice look like even leading up to that, to get to that point, to be competitive in nature?
It's a daily practice. It's a daily practice of, and one of the most important thing about this one is actually nothing to do physical. It's actually mental.
Yeah.
Right. Your brain is, when you are in that mode of like anaerobic, depletion, your brain is screaming at you to stop. Everything your brain says is not your friend. And in this, you can take that little lesson and apply it across everything in life. Real estate, working out, dieting, not drinking, you name it. That is discipline. And discipline is not a physical aspect, it's a mental aspect.
Totally.
And the best part about rowing was the strength, the way that I strengthened my body, of course, but my mind became so incredibly strong where I knew I could do if I got through that, I could do anything in the world. I never, there's always like anxiety or worry or fear that creeps in, but the minute it creeps in, my mind was so strong that I could shut that down and just move into action immediately. And I think it's one of those things that, for anyone that's listening, if you're struggling with discipline, number one, you probably don't have a team around you to help you.
Yep.
Right. So, and if it was just me waking up at 5 a.m., you know what I'm doing? I'm going back to bed. Right. But my team was around me to help support me. The second thing is if you're lacking discipline, you probably don't have a coach or a mentor or someone who can motivate you and teach you how to do that piece, right? So that's the second piece you want to think about. Like, who is it that I can latch onto, whether it's a team leader, a mentor, a coach, or someone like that I can actually use and leverage to teach me what I need to do and then keep me accountable. And then the third thing is tracking. Everything we did was tracked,
Totally.
practices, times, races, body fat percentage. Like, as a Division I athlete, like, you are in crew, there's one step above, which is Olympics. So you're basically at the highest level of the sport. And, we monitored everything we ate. We monitored our body fat. We monitored our workouts, and it is this in crew. It's this each second matters.
Yep.
So it's this idea that 1% matters, right? 0.5% matters.
Yep.
And it's amazing when we start to focus on not these big jumps, which is what most people focus on. Like, hey, I want to sell $100 million this year. And they only focus on this outcome instead of saying, today I'm going to text one person that I haven't talked to in 5 years or whatever it might be. And you start to build and track that. You build a team around you. You have a coach or a mentor helping you. And that's how you actually achieve discipline.
I love that. I think the whole point that you're making about tracking what you can control,
yep,
and really locking in on the habits and the practices and tracking those, getting better at those, rather than, everybody wants to go, I'm going to sell 100 homes this year. It's like, guess what? You can't control that.
Yep.
What you can control is the things that you're doing on a daily basis and how you're executing on those, and are you improving them just little by little by little. When I was in college, our baseball coach would say, like, get 1% better every day.
Yeah.
That was the mantra, 1% better every day. And it's like, can you get 1% better every day? It's probably more like 2 steps forward, 1 step back in reality. Yeah. But if that's the focus, first of all, it's less despairing, right? You're not like, but it's like, I can focus on the little things that are the 1%. Or like Coach John Wooden was like, he would sit everybody down at the beginning of the year and say, let me tell you how to put on your socks.
That's right.
They're like,
that's it.
We're the best college basketball team in the nation. Why are we talking about socks? And he's like, because you put your socks on wrong, you're going to get blisters. You get blisters, you're not going to play well, and I'm going to have to sit you, and then we're not a good team.
That's right.
And I think that's a great point.
Well, and I think our society, especially with Instagram and all the social media stuff, like, we're being fed this lie that outcomes matter. And the reality is outcomes are a farce. Like, and because for anyone that's listening, or you guys or myself, anyone that's a really high performing individual, the minute you achieve an outcome, you know what you do?
Move the target.
And at the end of the day, that the pursuit of an outcome is such a farce and such a lie you're telling yourself. Your goal should be the pursuit of an action or a 1% movement every day.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I wish we could go into every realtor's, like, quote unquote business plan
100%.
and remove any outcomes they have listed and only identify the actions they're going to do every day. We would have so many people being so successful.
Okay, picking up the thread that we're talking about there. You also talked about the importance of teamwork and accountability. If there is an industry, and I'm not aware of anyone more than this, and I'm sure there are others. If there is an industry that tends towards loneliness, it is real estate agents. And as somebody who was a lone wolf for a long time in this industry and now is not anymore, and I'm grateful for the guys sitting across from me that's also on this podcast, partly for that. But as somebody who played a team sport, I can say with complete certainty what you're saying is so true. It's like, we need other people. And so as we're talking about, like, okay, there's the actions and the practices I need to do every day, but we also, I think, need to stack the deck in our favor to help us to be able to do those actions consistently. And so talk a little bit about your thoughts on that. Like, yes, do the actions, but if I'm the only one responsible for those actions, I'm the only one tracking them, and I'm the one deciding if I did them well enough or not, I don't have any feedback from people around me or support, like, I'm destined to fail, right?
The other thing too is you're destined to be unhappy.
Totally.
So this is maybe we'll take this into a different angle you might not anticipate, but one of the things that I coach and I preach is happiness. At the end of the day, making money and having success and buying a car, buying a house, all that shit doesn't matter if you're not happy. And the reality is that we were meant to be around other people. We were meant to be around community, and we were meant to be around groups that actually work together to achieve things. That's in our DNA. And we've sort of entered this world where we're sort of isolated. And especially, you think of COVID sort of accelerated this as well.
Totally.
Then we think of technology, right? I'm holding up my cell phone. That's accelerated it even more. Now, I mean, how rare is it for people to make a phone call today, right? What do? They text. And the ironic thing is that we've created so much efficiency in communication, it's actually created distance in us as human beings. And for any realtor that's listening to this, even if you're an individual agent, you need to seek ways of creating community, not for any other reason other than to feel joy. Because when we wake up and we are in a overwhelmed, depleted, energetic state, we bring that into all aspects of our life and our business. But when we wake up and we're in a positive, motivated, disciplined, excited, energetic state, what happens? The rest of our world gets great.
Totally.
And I think it's one of those things that there's so many ways that people can create community and collaboration, even if you don't, again, forming a team, that's one way, right? So if I'm on a team, now we're all working together. How are we collaborating? How are we communicating? You can form accountability partnerships, right? With another agent. You can form mastermind groups. You can form, and again, the reality is it's endless what you can do, but the reality is you need to find and seek and create community as a real estate agent in order to be successful.
Something that came to mind as you're saying that is, like I said, I was a lone wolf for a long time. And I think the reality is probably most agents are solo agents still to this day, even though teams is like far more prevalent now. But even in the being a solo agent, you can even build community into the way that you find your business. Like I think about, there's another agent in our area. She plays a ton of tennis, and she hangs out with the gals that she plays competitive tennis with every single day. And guess what? It's a great source of business for her, and it gives her joy. So like it's this beautiful, virtuous cycle that she's created. And that's another way to do it too, right? Like you can certainly create community in a way that's beneficial to your business and you enjoy it.
Yeah. And go deeper than this. Like think of this concept of creating community among your past clients. Right? How many of us, if you've been selling real estate, create a Facebook group of, Ryan and Colin's past clients where people can share, HVAC contractors or ideas or community events. Imagine a world where you as an agent create a community around the people that you're working with. And this is a concept I built my real estate career on this, but now I coach to this, which I call the forever real estate client, right? We use the word past clients, and my hope and my goal with people I come across with is to actually have them never use that word. But you can't just say, oh, you're my client forever. You can't just say that. You got to actually act like it, right? You got to create community within your past clients. Maybe there's charity events you do. Maybe there's volunteer opportunities. But imagine, again, if you're an agent listening to this, think about a world where you create a Facebook group of your past clients, where they are actually in a community now based around just working with you. And that actually means something out there in the community.
That's valuable.
And you are creating change, impact. And again, it could be around tennis. It could be around a charity, an organization. It could be around all kinds. It could be around walking dogs, right? Like, you have a dog.
It's endless.
It's endless. And we overthink this whole industry. We overthink it and we overcomplicate it because we are just, frankly, most realtors have diagnosed or undiagnosed ADD, and all they're doing all day is chasing squirrels, right? They hear a podcast and they're like, ooh, I'm going to do Facebook ads or I'm going to do this crazy thing. And all they got to do is actually have a conversation with the people they care about.
Do you think that some of the issue and I want to get into your story. We like haven't even listened to your real estate story. We're going to get there, but do you think that some of the issues that real estate agents deal with is like this idea of like, when I'm realtor Ryan, when I'm agent Ryan, I need to be a certain way. I'm going to dress a certain way. I'm going to show up a certain way. I'm going to, project a certain way. I'm going to talk a certain way. And then I've got like outside of work Ryan. I've got, the guy who likes to work out and go to church and spend time with my family and coach my kids' baseball teams and all that sort of thing. And we're keeping these things so separate that really, if we did a better job of just integrating them, it would, first of all, make our lives a lot easier. Like you said, I could create a whole community around walking dogs because I've got a dog and I love dogs. And it could actually be super beneficial to what I do. Do you see that with the people that you coach?
Yeah. It's one of the cornerstones of my business that I created, and then now what I coach to. And I'll give you a really good example of this is, let's just talk CRMs, right? Most agents have heard of, hey, organize your CRM around an ABC model, right? A is all my past clients. B is people I think are going to be my clients. And C is like anyone else or what, I don't know. There's all these systems, right? Buffini, Tom Ferry, like everything. Yeah. The way that I coach it is totally different. And it's all based around emotion and how you feel about people. So the way that I coach it is that as you think about who you are as a person, one of your greatest assets is love, right? And how you treat people. Now, when we think about the people we know, we organize our relationships based on how we feel about someone, not based around what they did with us or what they, if they did a transaction or if they got us something, right? It'd be the equivalent of organizing our personal relationships around who gave me the best birthday present. Totally. Like no one does that, right? We organize it based around how we feel. So let's take that concept and let's actually apply it inside of real estate. So if you're listening to this, organize your database around a sphere A, people I love, sphere B, people I like, and sphere C, people I don't know or don't care about. And Ryan, what that allows you to do is it allows you to show up as your authentic self to that group of the A's. You can be Ryan, the realtor in person, all in one. And the beauty is you never really need to even talk about real estate to that group.
Totally.
To the B's, you're mainly Ryan, the person and the realtor. You're going to talk maybe a little bit more shop to those people, right? But at the end of the day, you're not going to talk too much about real estate because you still really like these people. The beautiful thing to the C's, you know what you are? You're Ryan, the realtor. You know why? Because they don't know you, the person, and they don't really care about you. They care about the property that's on the market or data or whatever. So now you can be Ryan, the realtor. So the answer to your question is yes, with a caveat that the people you don't know, you do want to show up as a professional, button-up realtor. Because for those people that don't know you, if you say, hey, I don't know you. Do you want to go walk your dog with me? Like,
100%.
Who's this guy?
And they go, I'm a cat person.
Yeah. Yeah. But to your A's, the people you love, you know what you can do in your new Facebook community group? Hey, who wants to do a dog walk this weekend, 8:00? I'll bring the coffee. How cool is that? That's lead generation right there. And done in a way that's natural. And the other great thing as well for anyone on the call that's listening that's paralyzed by a CRM, you're paralyzed by a CRM because you're going against who you are as a person. Because you're like, oh, is this an A? I really don't like this person. They were an asshole. Like, but I guess they bought a house. So I got to put them in A. And realtors spend 10 minutes trying to figure out where to categorize someone. Totally. With this system, you know how quickly you can categorize your CRM like that? Because I look at a name and I either say, I love that person, I like them, or I don't really know who that is. Because realtors will spend 10 minutes researching someone they emailed 3 years ago that they don't know. Rather than put them in a bucket, put them in the sea.
I remember early on in my career staring at my phone, knowing I needed to pick it up and make phone calls because I was working with a coach that said I needed to, thinking that thing was a 300-pound brick. Like I was terrified because some of the people I was calling, I was like, I don't have a relationship with them. Like they're going to think I'm just twisting their arm.
Totally. And then the people you did have a relationship with, Ryan, you had the same feeling, but in the opposite way where you're like, I don't want them to think I'm trying to sell them. I'm not, but my coach is telling me I need to call 100 people this week.
Totally.
What on earth do I say? So now what you do is, and this is called climbing the ladder of the ABCs, you reframe your conversations with them based on how you feel about them.
Yeah.
So you've given us a lens to look through, but you also talked about like kind of moving to action. Like you really just have to show up and do it. So how do you say though, like authentic and true to yourself and show up for those people, but still in an authentic way and true to who you are?
Yeah. Well, the first thing you need to do is you got to identify who you are as a person and what you love to do. So build your marketing plan to your A's and your B's around the things that you love to do. And then you can infuse that into your C's as well, right? So again, let's pretend we'll just take walking dogs. Your A's, you're going to send a text message to invite them to walk their dogs with you. Your B's, you're going to send them like a bulk email or like a one-to-one email about some great hiking trails for dogs that they could use. And then in your C's, you're going to send them a newsletter about like houses around dog parks, right? Or, I don't know exactly your market, maybe if it's suburbs, right? Houses with great backyards for dogs, and you could have a picture of your dog. So you infuse a little bit of your personality, but it's still real estate related, right? And that's how you can start to do it, Colin, is you start to take, okay, who am I? What do I love to do? And how can I infuse this into my business? And it allows you to move into action, because realtors get paralyzed and don't take action when they're going against who they are. Again, they hire a coach who's like, make 100 phone calls. Here's this script I want you to memorize. Are you looking to buy or sell a house in the next 7 days? Real life script I was taught.
I'm like shutting down even like hearing you say script.
Yeah, right. So, and again, it's like this beautiful thing that it just frees you from being paralyzed because you can actually do things you love. The next stage of that, though, you do need to then create a plan of what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. Because without a plan, I would probably say 95% of most realtors don't have a marketing plan to their sphere of influence. And 95% of realtors do their business from their sphere of influence.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right. And it's like one of these just ironic things that we overcomplicate the business.
Hey guys, as you know, being a business owner who wears a bunch of different hats can be exhausting. That's why I started cold plunging most mornings. It's been a total game changer for me. And I actually got into cold plunging after I had surgery to repair a torn muscle. Not only did it help me heal faster, but I also found myself hooked on the endorphins and the incredible boost of energy I felt afterward. Now it's a part of my daily routine. I use Ice Barrel to wake up, recover, and stay mentally sharp every day. As a business owner, I know that taking care of my health is just as important as taking care of my business. Cold plunging with the Ice Barrel has helped me reduce stress, recover faster, and perform at my best, both physically and mentally. And here's the best part. You can try it for yourself with an exclusive 20% discount just for listeners of this podcast. Head to icebarrel.com and use the promo code PRINCIPLED at checkout. That's Principled, PRINCIPALED. Plus, you can share this discount with your clients. If they're looking to add something unique to their backyard wellness space, an Ice Barrel is an amazing addition. It's a great way to provide extra value as their agent while helping them invest in their health and recovery. Start your mornings with a boost, take your performance to the next level, and help your clients do the same with Ice Barrel. You won't regret it. Hey agents, I want to take a quick moment to talk about the bane of my business owning existence, managing my money. Real estate income can be unpredictable, and keeping your commissions organized is a game changer. That's why I use Sequence, the ultimate money router and banking solution built specifically for real estate agents. I personally use Sequence to automatically set aside money for my taxes, so I'm never caught off guard. Plus, I've set up pods for payroll and operational expenses, making it easy to budget and manage my cash flow without the stress. It's like having a financial assistant built just for our industry. If you want to take control of your finances like I have, Sequence is the way to do it. And because you're a listener of this podcast, you get an exclusive 25% discount when you sign up. Just go to getsequence.io and use the promo code PRINCIPLED, PRINCIPALED at checkout. Trust me, once you start using Sequence, you'll wonder how you ever managed your commissions without it. Sequence is a partner of Thread Bank, member FDIC. For those who don't know you and you're a coach now and you're spouting wisdom, which I will validate as somebody in the industry and as somebody now who has interviewed a lot of top agents, they are not telling us about their scripts. They're just not. That's not what made them successful. but you've had a successful career. Your career's not over by any means, but I'm assuming you didn't start out just like knocking everything out of the park from the beginning. Tell us about like what was it like at the beginning of your career? Like what were some of the potholes you stepped in early on that kind of helped form you, shape your business?
So one of my I'll actually tell you about my very first transaction because
Love it.
I was a teacher and I'm like, in my head, I created a story that no one would want to work with me because I had a full-time job. So I remember at the time I was sitting floor, we called it, right? So you basically just sat there, the phone would ring, you'd answer it. So I was sitting floors after school and I answered the phone. This guy wanted to see a property. I showed it to him. He ended up buying it. I never told him I was a teacher. So it was really challenging because I would sort of have to like dodge a little bit until 2:30, 3:00, and then I could get back to him every time. Yeah, with the inspection, oh man, I'm busy that time. And the inauthenticity of that transaction was something that I promised to never repeat. So
Painful.
it was done, it completed, it settled, and I was like drained from it because
It felt
of
like a lie.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and I never lied, quote unquote. I never said
but that
I wasn't a
feeling, right?
teacher.
Of like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I was like, hey, I can't do that time, and I didn't say why. So from that point forward, I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm going to just be me. I'm a teacher. I'm a full-time teacher. And it really allowed me to free myself up. So I think the first thing that I really learned in that regards is I was comparing myself to other realtors. Right. And it's a lesson to this day. And, unfortunately, the life lessons, we always got to relearn them because now, from that early 2002, I learned that lesson. And, in different stages of my career, I had to relearn it. When I created a team, I created a team for the first time in 2013. I was a really successful individual agent, 2 full-time admins, and then 2013, I created a team. And when you guys probably can relate to this, you create a team, you hear all this advice from people who have teams, or you're watching them, or you go to trainings, etc. And you're constantly comparing yourself like, wait, why are we not doing that? Why are we not doing that?
totally.
And so I had to relearn the lesson there. And then I think going back into sort of transitioning into Compass, making sure as I was elevating into, the leadership position in Philadelphia, but then beyond that as the head of coaching, not comparing myself to people, other coaches. And then forming this company, same thing. Like I battle this all the time, right? Brand new coach, brand new company from nothing. And you see Tom Ferry and you're like, why am I not doing that? You're like, oh wait, remind yourself, come back.
So there's that saying, comparison is the enemy of joy. I think that's true. Also though, it's kind of a double-edged sword because on the other hand, we're saying you need to be around people or else you'll be miserable. So it's like, there's this tension at all times kind of in what you're saying. It's like, hey, you're going to be miserable if you're alone and you're going to be miserable if you're comparing yourself. So how do you think about that? It's like, how do you think about, I want to be around people. I want to be in community, but I don't want to be comparing myself.
It's about understanding that life is dichotomies, right? We want to make a lot of money, but we don't want to work too hard, right? We want to, lose weight, but we want to eat really great food, So anyways, so life is this dichotomy that you always have to walk through. So in this regards, the key difference between comparison and learning is what you have to focus on, right? So if I'm comparing myself, what I'm doing is I'm actually degrading myself or saying I'm not good enough. So the first step is every single person you meet, interact with, you are good enough as is. As you are good enough. So you have to get really grounded with yourself and love yourself first. But then you can say, what is that person doing that I could learn and integrate into my practice, my business, my life, etc. So the key difference between comparison and learning is self-love. So as long as you're loving yourself, I can meet with Ryan and Colin and hear about what they're doing with their team. And because I love myself and I'm grounded, I'm not telling myself negative self-talk where I'm like, oh man, Skye, you're not good. You're a horrible team leader. You're not doing a good job. You're this, you're that, right? You should be doing more. Instead, I could be like, I'm grounded. I love myself. I love what I'm doing, but I also want to continue to grow. And the way I'm going to grow is by learning from Ryan and Colin, understanding what they do and what does work for me, maybe the things they do that doesn't work for me, and then identifying those things and trying to implement them.
No, I'm curious because you say self-love, because we talked about happiness earlier, but it's progressing, it's deeper. And guys don't talk about this, like loving yourself. That's just not language. It's like, hey, what's the next mark we have to hit at work? What's the next zero? But going back to like the loneliness aspect in this career, and I think in a lot of careers as well, guys get lonely. So what did it take in either personal or professional career where you go, there's something's not adding up, it's not right, and I need to learn to love myself? What does that look like for you?
Well, the first thing you have to understand is it's a practice, right? It's a lifelong practice. Life is this. I call it life is a mountain with no top. We're constantly going to be climbing it, and the place that happiness resides is right where your feet are, and enjoying the climb rather than trying to get to the top of the mountain. So that the key thing for people to understand, especially men, then is how do I actually develop a practice around this? And the reality is I'm so much more powerful when I'm actually vulnerable. I'm so much more powerful when I am actually talking about feelings and my downfalls, and when I'm talking about the things I'm struggling with. I'm so much more powerful when I actually express the love that is in my mind and my heart to other people.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things as men, we got to understand that there's power in sort of that ultra masculine side of me, right? Where there are times I got to work 12, 14, 15 hours and I'm going to go. But there's a lot of power, more power probably in that feminine energy side of me where I can actually express love and kindness in a way that encompasses who I am. But I got to practice it. So the practice for me, and again, it's going to be different for everyone. You got to figure out who you are. But the practice for me goes into, I call it 3 sides of the triangle: my physical, my mental, and my spiritual health. Every day, I need to be practicing those 3 components in order to enter the world in a powerful state. So, and for me, everything starts physical, right? Because of the athlete in me.
Yep.
When I work out, it connects with this ancient piece of who I am. As a little kid, that's where I found so much joy on the athletic field and connecting with my body and pushing it. But then it has to go deeper. So it has to go into the spiritual side for me, which is all about like meditation. So I meditate not every day, but most days. I have about a 15 to 20 minute practice that I do. I have affirmations. It sounds corny, but I'll light a candle. I have a meditation chair I sit in. And then I have affirmations that I have that I'll read out loud. And then I'll usually we'll meditate to the sound of the ocean. And I'll set a timer for 15 to 20 minutes, depending on what. And then the key thing is focusing on breathing in through my nose to count to 4 and then breathing out to 5. And it's amazing as I do that, time just shrinks where 20 minutes will feel like 2, right? But I emerge from that. It's almost more important to me to do that than it is to work out. And it's exactly like working out, though. It's working out your brain. Because especially nowadays, our brains are so overstimulated and in just an active hyper mode at all times.
It's almost the opposite. It's almost like you've got that, like, I mean, as an athlete, it's like you can't sprint in that boat all the time.
You can't.
It's like, I'm going to go sprint, but then I need to recover. It's almost, it's the like inverse of the other side of that triangle for you.
It really is. And it calms you, right? As athletes, like when you're performing at your best, you're actually mindless.
Totally.
Right? It's almost like you're moving in slow motion.
You're in flow. You're just in the motion, the moment.
I love what you said too, just like the power in being vulnerable, like especially in this industry, but I think even with men, and it can be true of women, it's like you have to show up and it's like, here's my stats. And you feel that pressure to perform. And yet in the vulnerability, it's like, no, I actually have so much more freedom to be true to who I am, to love myself well, which ultimately allows me to love others really well in how I do my business and then how I live out my personal life as well.
I want to ask you about affirmations. I'm an admittedly challenged on affirmations. And it's not because they're bad. It's because I've never really gone into them. So here's my challenge with affirmations. And I've had coaches that were like, do your affirmations. If I tell myself over and over something that I know isn't always true of me, I feel like I'm lying to myself.
Yeah.
Like the affirmation of I am, well, let's say back in the day when I'm first starting the business, I am a top producer. I am a top producer. And then I'm like, I sold 2 houses last year. I'm not a top producer. Like
I am about a producer. I'm about
I am a wannabe producer, And so talk about like affirmations and how you affirm. Like
Yeah.
what are the types of things that you're saying to yourself? Like I think that's important.
It's great. So first off, there is no rule. Like the I am statement, so for everyone that's listening to this, affirmations or meditation or, whatever self-help you're pursuing, there is no rule for that you need to follow. You need to find out what works for you. So if you think of affirmations, all affirmations is positive self-talk. And Ryan, you're a dad. Colin, do you have kids?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So think of this, Ryan. The next time you try to do affirmations, I want you to picture you giving affirmations to your 8-year-old son.
That's great.
And what would you actually, I could get a little emotional thinking about it right now. Thinking of my 12-year-old son, right? Like, and the reason why this may be your trick that would work for you is because of the fact that you're going to actually give your 8-year-old son a quick message every day that you don't need to give it, but what would I say out loud to him that I want? So Ryan, actually, let's practice it now. If you were talking to your 8-year-old son right now, what message would you want him to know about him?
Yeah. That he's valuable, that he was made with a purpose. That God didn't make a mistake when he made him.
Yeah. Why? Give me more. Give me one more. Why?
Yeah. That I love him no matter what he does. Yeah.
That is your affirmation to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing about that. And it's actually, I'm so glad that you went there because I think being and doing, like doing affirmations to me, worthless, throwaway. In fact, probably harmful because if I don't live up to that doing affirmation, kind of like an athlete, I am a 300 batting average hitter. If I'm a 250 hitter, I feel like a failure.
Yeah.
Being affirmations, like who I am, like truly am at the deepest level, those are meaningful. And, faith is an important part of my life. So when I think through this, for me, it's actually prayer, which is kind of a form of meditation. But when I'm praying, I'm looking to what God says about me. And it's Heavenly Father. So to me, that Father, what I would say to my son is like a very great connection because I'm like, prayer for me is like, I'm reflecting on what God says about me. And then I'm thanking him for who he is. And that to me is like my practice. But I love what you said there because I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. That's affirmations right there. So
yeah,
Colin, that was so beautiful. Colin, who do you have, how many kids do you have?
Yeah, 3 kids. I've got a son, 14, then 2 girls, 10 and 9. And so, yeah, this is actually, I love this moment because I've been doing this with my son. I'm doing a thing called Primal Path, a discipleship program with him. And it's affirmations. It's going, hey, who are you? Not what you do. It's like, hey, I don't love that action about you, but that's not who you are. So I love that moment there because one of the biggest struggles in my life, vocationally and personally, was just this pushing back the lies, right? It's like, I will believe the lie till I'm blue in the face. But to speak that truth, it's like, well, but not really, not me. Like, that's true about you. I love Ryan. He's great. He's awesome. I believe that to be true for you, but certainly not me. And until I could figure out how to love myself well and believe that that was true and available through having to speak it over my son, that was when that moment hit where it's like, no, you are valuable. You matter. You're significant. Yeah, you make mistakes, but that's not who you are. Who you are is the ability to live into what God's called you into and to follow that path. And so it's just that was a beautiful moment. Thanks for sharing that. Cause with kids, it's like, man, I could get emotional talking about this. Like, it's just a beautiful example of how we can even just love ourselves.
Well, and it's so easy for us to give affirmation to our children.
Yeah.
And the reason it's not easy for us is because inside our heads, we have a roommate. And this is like a good analogy for people to understand is inside your brain, there's a roommate that is chattering at you all day. And that roommate is not your friend. It's also not who you are. But we often believe we are that voice. The voice inside your head is not who you are, but we often believe we are that voice. And that voice often is very, very negative and very detrimental. So part of this meditation or affirmation practice is being able to disconnect from that voice in your head and the things and the messages that voice in your head gives you. Because if you believe that voice in your head, unfortunately for most of us, the voice in their head is telling us some really nasty shit.
No doubt.
And that's what drags us down.
So I'm tracking with you and I love all of this. This is really awesome. I'm trying to think about the person who's listening to this that's going, y'all just lost me. You just went like woo woo, like way weird. Like what in the world does this have to do with real estate? Like you're the practical, pragmatic, cynic, skeptic that's like, this sounds super weird. Connect the dots for us. How do these practices, how do they matter in my real estate business?
Real estate is very similar to crew, where it is who can endure the most pain and who can become, the reality for most of us as realtors, we don't remember the great transactions. We remember the ones that haunt us, that hurt us, that, we think about at night. And the reality for you as a realtor is that if you do not have a practice of self-care, self-love, and building up your inner being, real estate will destroy you.
100%.
And I've seen it. I see it every day. And the reality is real estate is it's a vehicle to a life that we want to live, but you got to be able to make yourself the driver of that life, of the driver of that vehicle. And the way you do that is by it's a concept I call being healthy selfish. You have to become selfish about your health. And the health means spiritual, mental, and physical. And when you develop that, you will all of a sudden real estate will magically become this easy thing that you're like, wait, everything's just flowing right now. And my goal with my clients and the people I coach, with you too, even, I want you to be able to float through this world in this like effortless way where it's just like you're floating. And that's when I was selling at my highest level, is when I was just floating through it. When I'm efforting and grinding and, that's the worst times of my life.
Well, and I think a lot of what we do too, we're always pouring out. Like our job isn't a sales job, it's a service job. Like we are in the service industry, which means we're constantly pouring out for our clients and showing up for them and serving them. And if our well is empty, we can't love and take care of them very well. And what I've found to be true is when I'm the most burnout, if my well is dry for an extended period of time, when I get that call from a client who needs something or is freaking out or whatever, instead of moving toward them in love, I'm moving away from them in resentment. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I am so pissed. Like, why is this person calling me? It's hard to show up consistently for people when you're in that place. So I see what you're saying is 100% been validated in my life and business. So we're coming up on time here pretty soon. I really, one of the things I'm fascinated about in you and your career is you moved from a team lead and then you kind of shifted into a different position at Compass.
Yeah.
Which I look at the position you shifted into as a real estate agent, and I know the people that did the job that you do or did. And I go, you just took a really tough job. Like, that's a tough job. It's a kind of a thankless position. And it's a difficult shift. And I'm just curious, what was it that prompted you to go I'm a producing agent with a team, and now I'm shifting into a kind of a, I don't know what they call it in Philadelphia, but here we call it a sales manager leadership role. What was it for you that made you make that shift?
Yeah. So unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, I was going through a divorce and amicable and everything like that, but it's still a divorce. And I needed to create some stability in my schedule and my life without losing money, so to speak. So I couldn't go on, I was 100% dad, 50% of the time is the way I describe it. Right. So, but I couldn't, the days I had my kids, I couldn't go on listing appointments and show properties and balancing that. So the opportunity when Compass Compass opportunity came about, it was almost like the universe watching out for me, God watching out for me, right? And saying, oh, we know you need this right now. And as I left the team, my sister took over the team. We all transitioned into Compass. It was an awesome experience. But the reality is it really was a decision that I was a little burnt out and I was a little seeking something new at the moment.
Yeah.
And it just came. And it was a really beautiful thing too, because when I did it, I had a feeling that I wanted to do what I'm doing now, which is to form my own coaching company. But, how do you do that without being around people all across the country? So that was the other piece of it that was exciting. Compass was a national brokerage.
Yeah,
so I was like,
a vehicle
oh my God,
for that.
there's a vehicle. So
then you started the 6 a.m.ers, which we're very familiar. So can you talk to everybody about the 6 a.m.ers and what you learned doing that? Because that was, talk about a practice. You were like,
wow.
What was it? For those who are listening, tell everybody what that was. Yeah. But
so COVID hit, and we're all locked in place, and we were all shut down, and everything like that. And if you remember March of 2020, like I drank so much.
I think everybody drank a little too much.
Because we would start a happy hour at 4:00. And then it would end, we're all on Zoom, it ends. And then you're like just sitting there watching Netflix and you're like, I got nothing to do.
Well, and real estate agents didn't know if they were to cash a paycheck that year. So,
right. So you're like, just like floundering. I couldn't work out. Anyway, so I was just so out of control. The world was out of control. And I really needed to create something that got me back into discipline. So I was like, I got to start getting up early in the morning. I can go for a run outside. I can do lots of things, right? Just because I can't go into a gym doesn't mean I can't be healthy. I could cook good food. I could, et cetera, right? So, before leading up to that, I was like, all right, I'm going to start a group. I'm going to just email to my office, see who, again, create a team, create a community. I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. on Tuesday and Thursday. We're going to hop on a Zoom call and just chat, just talk, right? So, and we'll try to create like some workout plans and talk about health and all this stuff. So it started very organically. Then my other sales managers across the country started hearing about it. Hey, can I do that? Can I get my group in? And it just started to grow. And to make a long story short, over the 4 years that I was at Compass, I ran it. We had eventually expanded into an East Coast group and a West Coast group. And every Tuesday and Thursday, I did 4 interviews a week, every Tuesday and Thursday, and at 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. my time. So, but if I traveled for work on the West Coast, I was waking up at 3 a.m. to do the 6 a.m. It was brutal. But it was an incredible experience because of the fact that people needed community in that moment, and they needed hope, and they needed health, and they needed all these great things that I was luckily able to sort of fulfill that role along my co-host, Emily Bosser, on the West Coast as well. We did it together, and it was great because we could be vulnerable. We could talk about meditation. We could talk about things we're struggling with. And we had, I think it was over almost 5,000 to 6,000 people sign up for it for 1 month at least, right? And it was a really proud accomplishment in my career. And really, it allowed me to springboard into this next stage of my life and my business right now that I run, which is With Heart Coaching. So,
talk to us about With Heart Coaching. I think your access to having, the whole impetus for this podcast was we're at a point in time in the real estate industry where we feel like we need to elevate the professionalism and elevate and really shine a spotlight on those who are doing good business and doing it the right way, and give agents the tools to know, number one, they're not alone in wanting to do it the right way. And also like we are professionals. Like we have a lot of value. And then introducing them to people that are like doing things that are novel, that are doing things at a high level. You probably have interacted with a ton of agents now doing what you do as a coach. Could you talk to us just about some of your observations?
Yeah.
Having access to just this wide swath of real estate humanity. What are the most persistent challenges that you find people are facing? And then talking about the ones that are having the most success, like what are they doing consistently that others aren't?
Yeah. The biggest challenge people have right now is the squirrel syndrome and not knowing what to do, when to do it, how to do it. right? So we have all this technology that's been built. No one knows how to do it. It's a big, great Compass, greatest technology ever created. No one knows how to use it. And it's a frustrating moment, but opportunistic moment to be able to teach people how to use technology in a human way. And it's because there is so much as well, people are just in this squirrel syndrome. And again, not knocking this, right?
And that
now,
squirrel syndrome being like chasing shiny objects. Like,
yeah, Compass
Yeah.
One. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Let me learn this. Wait, your CRM, the basics aren't done.
Yeah. You've abandoned. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, let's go back to the CRM that's unorganized. You don't even have your past clients in there. Like, you've been selling real estate for 20 years. Like, we don't need Compass One yet if the basics aren't there. So realtors need to earn the right to complicate their business, right? And when you ask the question, what are the successful people doing? The successful people are doing the basics. And they're doing the basics really well, and with technology and with consistency. And it goes back to some of our early conversations around discipline, right? What is the practice that I'm going to have and the discipline I'm going to have to do these small things every day? So if every realtor did this, if every realtor every week texted 10 people this exact script and quote unquote script, use it, reframe it any way you want. Hey, I was in your neighborhood showing houses. I drove past your house and it made me think of you. Hope you're doing well. That little thing. And you text 10 people. By the way, not just text them. Then you go into your CRM and fully update the contact. And you did that every week for a year. Do you realize how much money you would make?
And
Just
it's
do
so
it.
easy.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. So do a challenge on your team even. Let's do that for a month, all right? Just 10 texts. The rule is, though, they have to update the contact fully in the CRM. Instagrams, like Facebook's, dates, birthdays, notes, in 1 month. And 40 texts in a month.
I
And just
love
see the
how
result.
small that is, right?
So small.
Because, and I've worked with, it's been a while now, but I worked with coaches in the past, and it wouldn't be 10 text messages a week. It'd be 10 phone calls a day, and not phone calls. You had to talk to 10 people a day.
Yep.
So
Calling 100.
I remember waking up when I was working with one coach at like year 2 of my career. I would wake up in the morning. The first thought I would have is like fear. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to spend 2 hours staring at my phone making these phone calls. And then, and to your point though, because I love what you just said, I got to a place, and when I really started to figure it out, I really took it back to simplicity with like sports, and it was do more than 0 today. I had to get that granular.
Yeah.
Make more than 0 calls.
And Ryan, I think it goes back into this, coaching. The coaching industry is very similar to the pharmaceutical industry, where if you make those 100 calls, you're going to get business, but you hate your life. If I have high blood pressure, I take this pill, I'm going to lower my blood pressure, but it's only because of them doing this pill. And what I really try to teach and coach to, hence with heart coaching, is how do you actually do less to get more?
So good.
Right? Let's not do more to get a little bit more. Let's do less and get more. And again, just anchor around some basic procedures, basics of real estate that have not changed in forever. Relationships. So everything we do, I don't coach cold calling or anything like that, and I have no problem with people doing that. That's great.
Yeah.
It's just not my specialty, not my authenticity, right? I coach, how do you build really great, powerful real estate careers based on relationships?
Well, I think that's a great way for us to wrap. We are going to, our last question, we ask everybody the same question before we wrap up, which is, if you could go back in time, so you jump in a time machine, you head back to 2002.
Yep.
And it's like Skye Michiels, teacher, 9th grade softball coach, newly licensed agent, and you could give yourself one piece of advice, knowing what you know now. What might it be?
My CRM is more important than my email. And any time that I am emailing, I better be balancing that inside my CRM. If I did that from 2002 to today, man, I can't even calculate the amount of money I probably lost in lost opportunity just by not using a CRM.
So good.
So
That's really good.
your CRM is more important than your email.
Well, man, thank you so much for being with us, Skye. We have thoroughly enjoyed it. We've gone overtime, so we only go overtime if it's a great conversation. So I'm sorry we kept you over. If people are listening to this or watching on YouTube, where can they find you?
Yeah. Instagram is a great source. So at Skye, Skye Michiels, Michiels. That's my Instagram, or my website, withheartcoaching.com. So pretty easy to spell out. I was so thrilled when that URL was available. I couldn't believe it. I was like, yes.
Let's go.
It was really cool.
Well, y'all check out Skye's content. Go seek him out. If you've never had a coach before, I would highly encourage you to seek out a coach. And if you resonate with what Skye's saying, that's a big thing. If you've never worked with a coach, you need to be able to truly resonate with what that coach believes, because you're going to be working closely. So if you resonate, give Skye a shout and connect. Awesome. Well, thank you, man. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful day.
Hey, y'all. Ryan and Colin here. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you have gotten any value from the show, and if you resonate with our thoughts on how we serve clients and happen to have a client moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we would love to serve them. Our promise to you is that we will take exceptional care of every single person that you send our way, that we will collaborate with you every step of the process to make sure that it is a seamless experience for everybody involved. And we're going to offer you a generous referral fee as a thank you for trusting us with that relationship. Now, you can connect with us through our social channels, or you can go to our website, all of which are linked in the show notes. As always, we appreciate you a ton. Now back to the show.
All right, guys, we just had Skye Michiels on the show, real estate agent turned coach. Ryan, give me your first takeaway from speaking with Skye.
Yeah, I mean, I think Skye Michiels and I would be best friends if he lived here. No, I really love so much of what Skye had to say. Obviously, I connect with him on a personal level just through background in athletics, and but I think what he does really well that I don't know that a lot of people do really well is he's got this athletic background, which is like that discipline, gut it out, like grind out if needed side of things. But a lot of times people will over skew that way, and those are the folks that are like, just get it done. Like, I mean, Jocko Willink, like discipline equals success or whatever it is. I don't know what he says, but it's like, but then you can just run yourself aground really easy, And what he represents to me that I think is cool is it's like, yes, that part of me is very important. And also, I'm going to talk about the importance of relationships, and I'm going to talk about the importance of, loving myself and loving other people. And so that's like this vision of the business that I think is really balanced, and it doesn't skew too far one way or the other. I also like, it's like, hey, let's talk about business. And it's the tactical part of it, like the strategy part of it is like this much. And the getting yourself in a good place to be consistent and pursue relationships part is like the bulk of it, which is, I think some people might listen to that and go, but I didn't get the 5 steps to have like a great business. And the truth of the matter is, at least I think we've found this to be true interviewing people, is there's like a million ways to skin a cat, so to speak. But like the ones that are really successful are like very consistent. They show up and they're in a good place when they show up pretty consistently, and they're serving their people consistently, And so a lot of what he talked about was like, okay, how do I put myself in a position to be able to show up at a high level consistently? So all of that I thought was great. Yes, Skye Michiels, very impressive person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could talk for a long time about everything he said there. I think it goes back to though, who you are. And so, we've interviewed different people that have, sold 100 million in business, and they get to that place and they're like, yeah, it was less fulfilling. It wasn't what I didn't feel the way that I thought I would. And it's just true. It's like, if you go in every day thinking about the number or the value or the next mountain to climb, and when you get there, it's not what I thought it would be. I didn't get the fulfillment I was looking for. And so it's just a good reminder. I mean, we can be so quick to chase things, perceptions, what others are doing, comparison. That is just such an easy trap to fall into. But going back to how you start your day, the value you see in yourself, doing the things again, and I'd say joy, finding joy in and through yourself of, and the Lord's kindness to me. And it's like, okay, that means today I show up this way, staying true to who I am. And then all those other things get the benefit of me working out of a heart and mindset that's fulfilled. So I don't have to go seeking it. It's like I already have it. I start my day with that. And now out of that gets to flow out into relationships, career, friendships, community. And so I love the power of vulnerability, the power of community. He hit on those things. And so it can be, again, it can be a really lonely space, a lonely business for anyone, even outside of real estate. And so having those things in place just matters so much to be able to stay true to who you are and really keep you going in the business and in your personal life as well.
I agree. Skye Michiels, you're the man. Thanks for being with us.